Okay, so now I'm going to start the second part of today's seminar, right? Just give me 1 minute. Okay, so the second part of the today's seminar. So in the very first video, I was actually planning to do it just by consuming 1 hour of time, but unfortunately, I had to drag it 120 minutes because I was pausing the recording at the beginning because I'm not really well actually, right? To continuously talk because I was pausing and continuing and all. It has consumed 1 hour and 20 minutes of time nearly, but let's try to make sure that it's not going to be more than 3 hours of time because it will be harder for you guys as well to keep listening to the same things that you have learned, right, repeatedly. But anyway, I just believe that the most important part is we are discussing about the model question, so that is important, right? So why I'm going through this handout is basically just want to recap what we learned, right? Because I know that some of you unfortunately are there to uh, they do not want to listen to the lecture, but they directly come into the seminar, which is not that successful as for my point of view. Because most of the details, everything I'm explaining in detail when it comes to my lectures, right? So you see some of the slides are very empty sometimes, just an image is available. So I'm giving a very lengthy explanation for some parts, right? So, therefore, my advice is listening to the lecture is the number one important thing, and then the seminar. Even in the seminar as well, I just thought of recapping, or I just thought of going through the PowerPoint presentation again and again. Why? Because when I discuss about the model question, so now you know that, okay, from which part this question has come from. right? So ඒ හින්දා තමයි මම මේ අලුතෙන් ආපහු handout එක quickly go through කරන්නේ, not in detail but in a very quickly go through කරන්නේ ඒ නිසා. So it's important for you to focus on your attention, right? So in this lesson, this is number 11, lesson number 11. So lesson number 9 is software, but before that I'll be talking about the hardware part. So when it comes to the hardware, so you know what it means by computer hardware, like all the tangible aspects where we can see and touch now, right? So some hardware elements are located internal to the computer, where other hardware elements are located external to the computer. So there are internally located hardware elements, right? Like motherboard, video card, hard disk drive and everything, CPU. So these are internally located, right? The externally located hardware are the ones where we use as keyboard, mouse, right? Or they were externally located. So major classification is that. Apart from that, we can also classify that input hardware devices, output hardware devices, and the storage devices. So මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න ඇවිල්ලා තිබ්බා ගිය අවුරුද්දේ examination paper එකේ, so I will discuss it later, right? Right. Now, this part is very much important, the relationship between hardware and software. In the very first lesson, I taught you this, right? In the very first part of the seminar, I taught you this, the relationship between hardware and software. But anyway, I will talk about it again. So when it comes to the liveware කියන කාටද ළමයි? user. Users are basically interacting with what? When it comes to the software, application software, right? So users are directly interacting with the application software. Now I want you to say some examples for application software. For an example, word processing. So the example is MS Word, right? So that's an example, right? In order to work with application software, you need hardware, right? So if you take this PowerPoint presentation, to type on it, you need the keyboard. To point something, you need the mouse. To project it and to show it to a bigger crowd, you need a projector, right? You need hardware and you need to save it. You are saving it permanently in the hard disk drive, right? And you need to carry it to another place. So you need right? So you need what do you call this pen drive, USB pen drive, to uh, take it here and there. So likewise, to use the application software properly, right? And also when you type it, you should be able to see it on somewhere. No? So you have the computer monitor. Monitor itself is a hardware. Now you know for liveware to use hard application software, you need hardware, right? The other thing is when you take the software, the other category is the system software. So you know the four components when it comes to the system software. So one is OS, then OS is there. The other one is device drivers, right? Utility software, and then language translators. මේවා නිකන් කටපාඩමින් මතක තියෙන්න ඕන. Okay. So you know device drivers නැතුව we can't use the peripheral devices which are connected to your computer like mouse or the keyboard or whatsoever. Even a pen drive also, once you connect it, you can see the messages like, okay, this is installing, these drivers are installing, right? And at the same time, you can't smoothly functioning with these device drivers without the utility, sorry, the hardware devices without the utility software. Because for an example, when you insert a pen drive to your computer, it says that, okay, shall I scan this for virus? So you can pick scan, continue with scanning or continue without scanning. And at the same time, if you take the OS will help you to manage the hardware devices in 6 different ways. OS lesson එක බලන්න hardware manage කරන එකේ 6 different ways තියෙනවා. Memory management, process management, file management, security management, network management, right? So those things are there. And at the same time, OS will help you to have a very attractive user interface as well. Because if you don't have the user interface, when you type on the keyboard, you will not be able to see anything in your screen, right? So now you see to use the hardware, different types of software elements are needed, especially once comes under the system software. So this is the relationship, and this thing should be, kept in your mind as a must. Okay, and then we have the classification, internal and the external hardware, and we discuss about input, output, and storage device. Input in the sense, what kind of hardware elements that you use to input data. Output in the sense, once you process with the data, there should be a way for you to see the results or the output, like monitor is there. Like this, when you play a video on your computer, you will hear it from the speakers. Speaker will output the voice, right? So likewise, you can, starting from that point onwards, we have discussed a lot of input hardware elements like this. And then from this section onwards, we have discussed a lot of output hardware like this. Okay, but there are some other ways to store information, because this part basically talks about the storage devices, right? So storage hardware devices which are internally located, as you can see here, and at the same time, which are external, like USB, hard disk drive, external hard disk drive. Apart from that, there are some other ways to store information online, right? You don't have to carry hardware, right? Because I'm always telling this, when you carry a pen drive or something with data, there is a high possibility of spreading the, what you call the virus, right? Virus spread වෙනවා ගොඩ වෙලාවට මේ portable devices වලින් data transmit වෙනකොට. So the best way, I would say, the online storages, right? The cloud storage, Google Drive is there, OneDrive is there for Microsoft, iCloud is there, right? So it's really easy. Like you don't have to carry the hardware devices. You need to have any device which is located in anywhere and the internet connection only. So with that, those two things basically, you can get the access to the storages, right? And then you can see the internal components. So in the lecture, I was talking about the functionalities of motherboard, central processing unit, the RAM and ROM, right? So the importance is you need to find some additional information to enhance your knowledge. Don't just stick to the lecture. 1 hour of time is not enough anyway to discuss about these kind of things, right? Because information technology is anyway new to most of the people. Therefore, you need to go through some additional readings. You may Google, you may watch some videos, but I have also highlighted some videos, included some videos here. So in that way, you can talk. Okay. And then again, if I take your attention to the model questions, right? So I will quickly take you to the model questions here. I will close this one because we are, done with going through this handout. So session 11 wala model questions ඔයගොල්ලන් බැලුවොත් එහෙම just try these. So just read it and I will give you 1 minute of time to point out like you have 20 marks. The මගේ advice එක නම් නිකම් එක model question එකක් මම answers ඔයගලන්ට discuss කරන හින්දා it's not just about listening. Video එක pause කරන්න. It's a recording, no? Pause කරලා take enough time and write the answers for each and every one. And also, like I mentioned in the previous video as well, when you take this kind of a question, just try to read it properly first, and then I try to identify from which lesson it has come from. Right? එතකොට ඒ විදිහට ඔයගලන්ට පුළුවන් knowledge එක අර gather කරගන්න. So I will just give you 1 minute of time. Just try it. Try to, jot down some points. 3 marks වලට ඔයා දන්නවා answer එකේ scope එක at for 5 marks, and if it is 12 marks, in the sense like you will have to invest some additional amount of effort and time to gather the insights relating to this particular question. Just try to read it and then jot down the important points. Okay, so you know how to define hardware in here. As it is 3 marks, just define what is exactly hardware means and just provide. Don't go for lengthy classifications and all, internal, external, input, output, storage, networking, hardware device. So don't go for those levels. Just define hardware and just provide 1 or 2 examples. And you know what is the relationship between computer and software. So this thing I explained in the previous or recording, and even today as well, when I was discussing about that PowerPoint presentation as well, I was typing it and showing it to you. So that example, that explanation you can take here. Rewind karla balanna. Differentiate between internal, external hardware using suitable examples. So you have to now differentiate internal, external hardware. So that is the task number 1 in this question. And you have to also explain suitable example as well. So that is the task number 2 in this question. right? So if I give marks for this particular answer, for differentiating part, I would give 10 marks, 5 marks for each. Providing suitable examples, I would give 2 marks, right? So personally, I would follow a rubric like this, right? So therefore, uh, it's important, right? So I'm not going to go in detail because I just discussed about this. And the next question, again, you have 20 marks to score, just right, 10 each. So what you can do is take 1 minute of time and jot down the important points that you can use to provide answer for this question. Okay. So what does it mean by input device? So for any kind of data input kind of an activity will be performed by data input device, and you have to name any 5 input device, right? So බලන්න තියෙන task කොච්චරක් තියෙනවද මේක question එකේ, what does it mean by just the definition of input device? Then name any 5 input devices. So name කියලා කියන්නේ just naming. ඊට පස්සේ කියනවා explain how we can use it for day-to-day activities. You see, 3 different parts are available for one particular question. So මේ වගේ වයි identify කරගන්න ඕනේ. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ළමයි miss කරගන්නේ ඔහොම තැන් question එක read කරනකොට. Right. And then output devices, the same question for 10 marks. Right. To make a lectures වලදී even there is nothing to explain much about the keyboard, no, but lecture එකෝගලන් ඇහුවොත් එහෙම දකිවි how lengthy explanations that I have provided even for such as easiest hardware device where you use in your day-to-day life, right? Okay, right, another one, right, that's it, we have actually as the questions. Another question, just read it and jot down, right? So you see the marks allocated, right? Total marks allocated. Now you can get an idea about the weightage and the time you need to allocate compared to this one. Maybe to this one, you need to allocate some amount of time compared to this one. Just jot down with you. Right. So in this question, you see name any 4 storage devices and briefly explain the functionality, right? Okay, so within the marks allocate penne for the students only who have named the storage devices, they will get only, let's say, 4 marks. But if they have provided the explanations as well, they will get some additional 4 marks. In that way, 8 marks can be allocated. What are the internal components and briefly explain the functionality. So you have to define what it means by the internal component briefly. In order to explain the functionality, you have to name it. The question you have to arrange your answer like that. Okay, just hold on. Okay, so in that way you can arrange your answer. Make mama anthimata dala thiyena the same clothes that I'm putting for all the ones, right? Giving examples are important. So these kind of model questions you can expect. And when we discuss about the past paper as well, so you will see how much it is important to discuss about these model questions, right? එතන මෙතෙන්දිත් මම කියන්න ඕනේ අර ඕගලන් පාඩම් කරන එකම විතරක් ඔයාලට හිතෙනවා එතනින් පිට අහලා නැහැ කියලා නෑ ඒකෙම නැහැ. සමහර questions තියෙනවා like we can check the practical applications. For those actually you have to think out of the box, right? But for these, just focusing on your attention on to what is exactly required might be enough, right? In the next part, ඊළඟ lesson එකේදී අපි මොනවද කතා කරේ? Software ගැන. So in that case, I told you the fact that the second lesson is about the computer application, and I'm not going to do any separate one for computer application. I have combined the software and the computer application lesson together and done it, right? So you see, this particular slide is representing the second lesson. So the software application. So depending on the device, this is how you can name it, right? If it is kind of a heavy kind of a machine or something, you just don't call it app. You just call it, I'm running a program in my computer, right? Application also the same. But when you take a mobile phone kind of a thing, you just don't call it as I have a lot of programs in my mobile phone. I have a lot of applications, like it's not that familiar, but you see, I have a lot of mobile apps, right? So, okay. And this is the composition of a computer system, as you can see, apart from the live and firmware. Important to have hardware, and it's also important to have software as well on the other side. So we discuss about the classification and the nature of different hardware elements, and here we have the software, right? Software simply is about a set of instructions, right? So different types of software are available. Just if you want to watch this video, just go to my recording. And this classification, I would thoroughly believe that's important, right? So apart from the programming software that we use to develop the software, so I will just keep it aside and just want to focus your attention to application and the system software. So the major difference, so everything lecture එකේදී අහන්න. So මේක වැදගත් වෙනවා. So I will simply explain you this. Application software basically is about, the software in which the users are primarily interacting with. Okay. On the other hand, the system software will provide the foundation or the basis for application software to operate. So here we interact with the application software, and these system software will not directly interacting with us, but it will provide a very strong platform, right? It will provide a playground for the users to function, right? So we discuss about the OS, device driver, utility program, and the language translator. Do remember, for OS, we have a separate lesson, so I'm not going to go in detail, but for device driver, utility programs, and language translators, just have a very simple understanding about what are the major functionalities of each of these with some examples. So OS, depending on the device, again, there are two types. Windows and Mac OS, Linux, Ubuntu, right? And then for mobile phones, we have Android, we have iOS, we have again Windows for mobile, Windows mobile phones or in the Windows OS. Example, so. And you need to learn about the device drivers and what are the major functionalities, and then what does it mean by utility programs, and these are some examples, right? So it's important. And what is the major functionality of the language translator? So that's important. And then I discuss about the application software. Okay. So මෙතෙන්දි ගොඩක් දෙනෙක් පටල ගන්නවා මෙහෙම application software types ලියන්න කියලා කිව්වහම සමහර කෙනෙක් ලියනවා MS Word, MS Excel, right? Those are not the types but the examples, right? මෙන්න මේ slide එකෙන් මම ඉස්සරහට තියෙන ඔක්කොම ටික එකවර ඔයගලන්ට explain කරනවා. So you see, so there are certain types of application software, right? මේව ඔළුවට දාගන්න. එක එක විදිහේ application software තියෙනවා. Different types of application software are available, right? So types in the sense, these are the types. Word processor, වදන් සැකසුම් කියලා කියන්නේ. Word processor can be an application software type. MS Word, Grammarly, and Google Docs can be an examples. Those things can be examples. Got it? Spreadsheet, then word processor application එක users ගත්තොත් එහෙම මොනවාද? So it helps us to prepare, write documents, prepare reports, sometimes maybe to visualize. And if you take the Grammarly kind of thing, sometimes you can check about the accuracy of the content that you have written. In the Google Doc, it's unlike the MS Word, right? So you can share, and in real time, you can collectively edit the document, and it's already automatically saved in the Google Drive. So even without your device, even without carrying the document with you, if you have internet connection and any kind of a device which is located in a particular location, so entering your Gmail password, you can get log into the Google Drive and get this document. So those facilities are available, right? So to prepare letters, memos, reports, visualization purpose, sometimes maybe you can show some graphs and all. ඔය වගේ දේවල් වලට office environment එකේ word processor applications අපිට ඕනේ වෙනවා. And then the spreadsheet is basically, sometimes most of the organizations maintain their employee master database using this spreadsheets, right? Spreadsheets වල තමයි master databases maintain කරන්නේ. ඊට පස්සේ you can do some sort of, data calculations, data analysis can be done, sometimes to visualize the data, right? So easy functions can be performed sometimes using spreadsheets. So I would take the examples as MS Excel, right? And then we have Google product එකක් තියෙනවා, Google Sheets. Again, the same things can be, experienced here. And then for presentation software, presentation in the sense, in the office environment, we need presentation to present some sort of things to a larger crowd, right? So the presentation, sometimes you can make some images, flyers can be made, some collage can be made, right? So if you want to present something to a larger crowd, it's always attractive to use some slide, PowerPoint presentations, right? So that part is that. So a lot of examples are there. MS, PowerPoint. I would type it as PPT to manage my space here. And then you have Google product එකක් තියෙනවා, Google Slides. Collectively, you can edit that and you can share. You can locate it in your online storage spaces. Google Slides are there. And then you have Canva. Another very interesting one, Canva. So likewise, you can have it. And then image video editing software in the sense, like it will facilitate you to edit the images, edit the videos, right? So that major facility is there. So what do you call this? Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop, and Adobe Premiere Pro for video editing, right? And then you have Coral. I'm not sure, pretty sure about these spellings. Video Studio. This is what I have personally used for video and audio editing, right? Even though it's called as Video Studio, still you can edit the audios as well, right? And in the painting kind of a thing, painting what you have in your computer. So just the software. Multimedia software මේ වගේ questions ඇවිල්ලා තිබ්බ ගිය අවුරුද්දේ. So multimedia software in the sense any kind of a platform which enables you to play audios and videos, so you call it multimedia software, right? So you have VLC media player. VLC media player is an open source software, right? VLC media player කියන එක open source software එකක්. ඊට පස්සේ තව ගත්තොත් එහෙම Game player, and then you have Windows media player. So මේ වගේ examples තියෙනවා. The database software will help you to maintain database, right, properly, which are provided especially by Oracle. One example. And database analytics software, which will help you to maintain databases, to do some sort of analysis and to data visualize, right? So data analytics software. So I would say SPSS. Statistical package for social sciences, right? And then SPSS is there. PLS SEM in the sense the PLS structural equation modeling, or make it up again smart PLS, and sometimes you may use R, right? And there is another classification. I would type it here as data visualization. Data visualization software applications are there. One example is Power BI, right? So that's also you can add to your slide presentation. And then here you can also take Weka. So these are examples. And then you have online software. Online software in the sense freely available online ones like gaming platforms, social media platform. So these are online software. And then you have the web browser ones, Mozilla, Firefox. I would use the short terms, right? Google, Chrome, and then again we have Internet Explorer will help you to surf on the web. So these are examples. So now you know these are the types and these are the examples. These are not the types. So in that way, I will erase this. I have explained a lot of application software. See? Right. And again, here I have explained about the Office computer applications as well. So when it comes as a package, so you see Word, Excel, PowerPoint, right? So these things, right? And what do you mean by Outlook, and what are the major functionalities, and what is the business use? Okay, your videos balanna obalanga. Itara meka lecture එක අහන්න. So I have explained well. So I'm not going to go in detail, but just to remind you that these kind of things are there. One note and some videos. And this part is important. Right. So different application software types, right? So හරි. මෙතෙන්දි දැන් ඔයගලන්ට පැටලෙන්න පුළුවන් මොකද අර කලින් word processing එකේ කතා කරේ types and application software types කියලා මෙතනත් වෙනම classification එකක් තියෙනවා. So do remember ඒ කතා කරපු ඔක්කොම අපිට අර අපි examples කතා කරානේ. ඒ කතා කරපු examples මේ එකක් හෝ කීපයක් යටතට ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ එතන කතා කරපු ඒවා මේ criteria යටතට අපිට දාන්න පුළුවන් මම ඔයගලන්ට පෙන්නන්න. So, you know, general purpose and either we can use one criteria as general purpose or special purpose, right? So, general purpose in the sense generally which is available for everyone, like Microsoft Word කියලා කියන එක සමහරුන්ට විතරයි අනිත් අයට බෑ එහෙම නෑ ඕන කෙනෙක්ට use කරන්න පුළුවන්. But SPSS කියලා කියන එක data analytics වලට විතරයි. right? ඒකෙන් ඔයාලට PowerPoint එකක් හදන්න බෑ. ඒකෙන් video edit එකක් කරන්න බෑ. It's a special purpose. Bespoke, again, custom or tailor-made software depending on client specific needs. Bespoke in the sense, again, customized software, which is way expensive. But off-the-shelf software is not like that. It is not customized. It is available for anyone, right? The third category is the proprietary and open source software. So you see, proprietary software කියලා කිව්වහම it's not freely available. Source code is not freely available. The software developers have they have kept the software rights with them, right? So you have to pay a huge amount of money and then buy the software. Therefore, proprietary software is ideal for bigger scale organization. But everyone cannot spend like that, no, right? හැම එක්කෙනාටම එහෙම spend කරන්න සල්ලි නැහැ. Just imagine the small scale organizations, so they don't have enough money to spend. So it's always good to buy something freely available on the internet where the source code is available. You can get the source code, change it accordingly, and use it as per your need. So these are examples. So this is an example for source code. And if you take the platforms like HRIS, you can go with paid solutions like something with Oracle or something. Oracle again සල්ලි දීලා අරන් modules ගන්න පුළුවන්. නැත්නම් මේ වගේ පොඩි employees ලා පිරිසක් නම් ඉන්නේ මෙන්න මේ වගේ එකට යන්න පුළුවන්. Right? And then we discuss about the software distribution where if you purchase it as a product, you need to have hardware solutions. If you purchase it as a service, only you need is the cloud space. And then what about the software licensing? So that's it we discussed. And then let's quickly get into the model questions. So I will give you 1 minute of time to read this question first, right? And then jot down what you have to put in this answer. Right. So you see, you have to define what it means by software and right. මෙන්න අර ප්‍රශ්නම hardware and software වල interrelationship එක ගැන වෙන විදියකට අහලා තියෙන question එකක්. මෙතන තියෙන එක තමයි මේ right? මෙතන තියෙන්නේ so do you agree with this statement? You have to say yes or no and then you have to justify it. So the same answer. Application and the system software differentiate කරන්න තියෙනවා with suitable examples. So I would give 6 marks for this and 6 for this. So in that way, I can split the marks in this question. Okay, just right. මේ question එක දැකපු ගමන් ඔයගලන්ට ඔළුවට යන්න ඕනේ මොකක්කින්ද මේක අහලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. So equal marks have been allocated among different questions. You can score 20 marks, right? So you see, it has asked you to explain OS, device driver, utility program, and the language translator. So this entire question is about what? System software के components ने में अहला තියෙන්නේ. Okay, so you know how to explain because we just discussed. This part make balance. Differentiate between bespoke and off the shelf. Right? ඒක ඔයගලන් දන්නවා 8 marks වලට දෙන්නේ. So 4 for this, 4 for this. And state any 4 application software as it is for 12 marks. So I would give 3 for each. Right? මෙන්න මේ වගේ question එකක් ගිය අවුරුද්දේ paper එකේ තිබ්බා. Application software 4ක් name කරලා employees ලට day to day activities වලට use කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? ඒක මම කතා කරා දැන් lesson එක කතා කරනකොට. Okay. So that's the important. කෙනෙක්ට හිතෙන්න පුළුවන් උගන්නපු එකමයි ආපහු recap කරන්න කියලා. ඔන්න ඔය purpose එකකින් කෙලින්ම question එක දුන්නාම sometimes if you haven't studied or haven't gone through the lecture, so you might find it tricky, but anyway, if I quickly take you through the handout by investing a minimum amount of time, like you can map down your answer. Okay, so we have one last lesson to discuss. We're done with the software part, and then again we have the OS. Make it important. දේවල් ටිකක් තියෙනවා. I will highlight those. So this classification is there, and operating system. So basically you have the importance of operating system in very detail, right? And different OS examples are here. And in this video, you will observe how the operating systems have been evolved. Time to time evolve වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක බලන්න පුළුවන්. ඉස්සර මේ වීඩියෝ එක මම ප්ලේ කරන්න මේක ටිකක් ලොකු වෙලාවක් තියෙනවා. 15 minutes වගේ වෙලාවක් තියෙනවා. How previously it was appearing and how now it is appearing. Right? And I was discussing about the Mac OS as well. Right? How starting from 2001, right, up to 2021, how different functionalities have been added and how it has developed, right? And then the Linux and Ubuntu, some open sources ones, and Unix, right? And you see mobile operating system, so iOS and the Android and Windows, right? How differently these screens are appearing to us. So you can see. And this part is very critical, basic functions of an operating system. So the major functions basically OS එකක්, it provide different user interfaces. User interface කියන්නේ how you can see this monitor. දැන් අර වීඩියෝ එකේ මුලදිම තිබ්බේ ඒකේ තියෙන්නේ එක කළු පාටින් නිල් පාටක් පුර යනවා. හරි කැතයිනේ. ඒක බලාගෙන ඉන්න ආසිතෙන්නේ නැහැනේ. But this is very colorful, no? Very colorful, and it's really interesting to watching, right? So user interface is how you can see, how you can visualize, how you can see the screen. Okay. And then the second one is managing hardware. So there are sub-key elements. So user interface, there are two types: command line interface where you have to type commands and all. So here you can see the command prompt, how you can see the entire screen. Computer if you are working with command line interface. Right? And then the graphical user interface, how different it is and how attractive it is, right? Compared to the previous one. These are very attractive. Separate icons are here. Separate menus are opening, right? So that thing is there. And when it comes to managing hardware also, there are 6 key elements, right? So I discussed separately about each of these functions. Right? So what do you call by memory management and how OS will support the memory management? right? And what do you mean by process management and how it is backed by OS? So you see, I would tell one example. Now in my computer, I have opened this PowerPoint, Word, and Zoom platform. Three different processes are running, right? And if I just pick one particular process, which is let's say Zoom එක pick කරගන්න. Zoom එක ඇතුලේ මම type කරනවා, screen share කරනවා, and I'm typing, I'm sharing whiteboard, right? You see sub processes also going on. So that is what you call as process management. And then the devices are being managed, security, right? So once you enter the password and the username and all, so ටික වෙලාවකට ඔයාගේ device එකෙන් එළියට ගිහිල්ලාම automatically screen එක lock වෙලා. නේද? if not වෙන කෙනෙක්ට ඔයාගේ computer එකට access කරන්න පුළුවන්. So automatic screen lock, and once you insert a pen drive or something, automatically you will see ඔයාට අමතක වෙනවා මේකේ virus ඇති කියලා. So automatically you will see messages appearing as, is it okay if we scan this, right? And then the file management, different text files, video files, audio files, so automatically, you know, they are saving to particular places without your intervention, right? So OS is there, and it will do some sort of things instead of you. Okay. So බලන්න දැන් computer එකක් ගත්තොත් එහෙම ඒකේ camera roll images වෙනම save වෙලා තියෙනවා. WhatsApp images, they are saved in a different folder. When I record these Zoom sessions, they are recorded in a Zoom කියලා automatically record වෙනවා තැනක. Right? ඔයා මේ PowerPoint එක save කරන්න යන්න for example. Right? PowerPoint එක save කරන්න යනකොට මේ බලන්න automatically මේවා එන්නේ. ඔයාට deliberately මැදිහත් වෙලා මේක PDF එකක් හරි ඕන විදිහකට දෙන්න පුළුවන්, but automatically it has done it for you. And the network management, wired or wireless, so that's that. And then you have different operating systems, right? So I have provided a lengthy explanation for each of these in the lecture. You can listen. That's that basically we discussed. If we quickly get into the model question, so just read it and jot down first. So the first question, you have two different parts, 5 marks parts and 15 marks one. Just take 1 minute of time and just jot down, okay? For 5 marks, you have to define OS and then name any 3 OS and provide explanations. For you can claim 5 marks for any one OS explanation. So that's easy now because we discussed. Right? So then again, you have to define what it means by user interface and explain with examples. Just a very small explanation with 1 or 2 examples would be enough because you have only 3 marks here, right? So how you can how you can see the screen, right? How the screen is appearing to the user is basically known as user interface. So there are 2 different types, command line and graphical user interface. So Linux, they use command line interfaces they have. In graphical user interface, Windows kind of things can be taken as examples. And this thing, okay, and major 2 types of interfaces, basically command line interface and the graphical user interface. So you can claim 6 marks for each. The video එක pause කරලා මේවට answers ලියන්න. මේවට explanations I have discussed in the lecture. I was just running through. මෙතන මේ තියෙන ටාස්ක් ටික දැක්කම මොන පාර්ට් එකකින් මේවා ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්න පුළුවන්ද? Just read it. OS වල, right? So operating systems major two tasks are there. One is hardware management, the other one is providing a user interface, right? So providing a user interface basically talks about command line interface and the graphical user interface, okay, with examples. And hardware management basically follows 6 different sub elements, sub processes, sub functionalities. So these are those functionalities: memory, process, device, security, file, and network. So these are 6 functionalities of an operating systems under the hardware management. So you are required to select only 4, where I can say that you might be able to claim nearly 5 marks for each. 5 into 4, 20. Right? So මේවා explain කරනකොට නිකම්ම කියන්න බෑ. So memory management වලට OS එක help කරනවා. So you won't be able to score. එකක්වත් හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ ලකුණු. එහෙනම් කියන්න ඕනේ කොහොමද? Right? කොහොමද ඒක help කරන්නේ? Right? Processors කියලා කිව්වම මොන වගේ processors ද? Devices කිව්වොත් එහෙම what kind of devices? Right? So likewise you have to explain. So OS lesson එක අහන්න ඕනේ. ඒකේ අන්තිම ටිකේදී මෙන්න මේ ටික කියනවා. So it's important these kind of questions can be expected. Right? So I just believe that what we discussed so far would be clear, right? So when I'm discussing about the PowerPoint presentations, I'm not going to go in detail as it's a seminar, but I'm focusing on some model questions like I mentioned earlier. So how the questions can be expected from each of the lesson and different question types, right? Different wordings and how you have to prioritize, how you have to allocate your time, just by looking at the marks and also different parts of a one particular question. So ඒවට තමයි මම පොඩ්ඩක් අවධානය යොමු කරන්නේ. So you have to write the answer for each of these. Everything are included in the handout. Right, so in that case, I'm going to stop this second part of the seminar by now, and then I will start discussing about the recent trends. කතා කරලා අපි ඊට පස්සේ නවා past paper එක discuss කරන්න.